most people's My Drive ends up looking something like this. And the big problem that we're trying to avoid, both for us and for our staff as well, is a My Drive that's completely out of control. And even though you can probably find things by search, unfortunately, this doesn't really give you the ability to find something if you don't know what you're searching for. So if someone maybe hasn't put the correct name on a file and it's not obvious, or you don't know exactly what the context of a file is, but you just know that a file exists, starting to put things into folders and putting them into folders inside your shared drive means that at least you know where to look if you're looking for a file. And there's a few different ways that we can set this up and different levels of complexity. I'm going to share those with you now. So we're going to go through what we call group permissions. Sometimes these are referred to as organizational units in IT land, but these are basically groups of staff or groups of people that we configure, and we set these up in the administrator panel. And from there, we're going to use these groups right across the business. And groups can be applied to many different areas inside Workspace. They can be applied to a chat room, they can be applied to a calendar, they can be applied to Google Sites when you use them through Drive. Basically, you can apply these to multiple different places, and they're going to be useful in a number of different areas inside the business. So let's go ahead and set these up. We're going to set up our groups. And to do that, we're going to go into our admin console. Now, if you haven't been here in a while or you're not sure where this is, you want to head along to admin.google.com. We're going to go to our directory and we're going to go ahead and set up groups. And in the groups menu here is where we create our groups. Now, there's a couple of different ways to implement groups, and I'm going to give you two different groups frameworks. These are my best practice recommendations. If you are a small business or small team, and by that I mean less than 15 odd people in the company, my recommendation is that you stick with a simple set of groups, and I'll share with you what those simple groups are as an example. If you are a larger team or larger business, that means 15 or more in the organization, I'd recommend you set up groups based on department or groups based on division or area. So that might be one for marketing, one for sales, one for finance, one for executive, one for delivery, one for, HR. You would set up one for every different area of the business. But if you're a smaller team, you may choose to go for a simpler setup. This is my recommendation. So you're going to need 4 groups. It's very simple. Number 1 group is owners and managers, or not quite managers, owners and shareholders. So that's group number 1. Number 2 is managers, and or you might make a special group for finance. Group number 3 is all team. So that's everyone. And then group number 4, contractors. So people outside the business. And with these 4 groups, you should cover most scenarios for sharing inside the business. So let's jump in and start setting up our groups. So I'm going to go to my groups under directory here. I'm going to click create group. I'm going to create a new group. All right. And I'm going to call this executive. Cool. All right. Now you've got to set a group owner. That doesn't really matter too much. Like if you're the super administrator of a business and you've got a small company, the group owner is a little bit moot because you can always override that if you need to, but it doesn't hurt to put yourself in there as the owner. Okay, now I like to tick this box to make it a security group. You're probably not going to use any of the features of that right now, but for now we'll just tick yes. Here's where things get important. So I typically start with the base of a restricted group rather than a public group. If this is left as a public group, it leaves some of the settings open to people outside your company being able to contact the group. So I like to personally put this as restricted. And then I like to switch off a couple more of these as well. So you can see here by default who can contact group owners. I actually like to switch those settings off. And the other one, who can post to the group. You might not want anyone to post to this as a group. Basically what happens is when you create one of these security groups, it also creates a distribution email address. So it creates like a group email that anyone can email. And I mean, my personal preference is that we discourage internal emails within the business. So I actually like to switch off all these settings so no one actually has the ability to post to the group. I do like to add this option though, who can view members, because I like everyone within the business to at least see who's in the group. It makes things easier if you're going to add this group to a recurring meeting in your calendar so people can see if a group has been added, who are the actual members of that group, even if they're not a member of the individual group. So that one I like to tick. You've got the option for group managers to add people to the group. If you're big enough that you'll have someone like an HR representative approving people to join the group, you can leave that one ticked as it is. I tend to choose this option only invited users. So it's basically just the business owner or HR that are managing who's in the group and who's out of the group. And, we don't have to bother with invitations and that kind of thing. We just keep this private to only those who are invited to the group. And the last option here is whether or not we allow people outside the company to join. Obviously, that one's going to be a no for this group. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create the group, and then it's going to invite me to add a couple of people into that group. So I click the add button, and then I start typing in some names. So I'll add Red, I'll add Scott. Actually, maybe I'll just add people that are on this call so I don't start annoying. So I don't start annoying the team. They'll start getting weird emails. Okay, so 2 members have been added to the group, and our group is ready to rock and roll. All right. It takes a second for them to show up, so sometimes you've got to refresh a couple of times before they arrive. Okay, so we've got a group here. Let's go ahead and create one more group. So if you're following along, you can create another group. Next up, I'll create my all team group. Great, so set myself as the owner, tick the security box. I'm going to choose restricted template, going to remove the contact options, remove the posting options. Yeah, member management is fine, and I'm going to allow everyone in the organization to view. I'm going to say only invited users, and again, don't allow anyone outside my organization. Okay, let's add everyone on this call to this one. Person. Wonderful. Okay. And then I'm going to create one more group. I'm only doing 3 here. I won't do the managers group. I'm sure you guys can work that one out. I'm going to create a contractors group because this one's going to be important. Right. Now, if you've got multiple domains within your business, you can choose alternative domains here. I think looks like we're just running with one domain at the moment, but if you've got add-on domains and you've got multiple brands, you can choose another one if you want to have a primary email address. Some businesses use this for emailing internally inside a company. I try and avoid that personally, but it is there as an option if you wish. Okay, so the contractors group, important difference. I'm going to tick this box here, allow members outside my organization. That's going to allow me to add contractors. Okay, and I'm just going to add my personal workspace account. That's external. So I can show up. There we go. And I'll add a Gmail in there just for good luck. Now, someone needs to either have a Google account or a Gmail account for this work, for them to be a group member. I don't know if it works with, in the old days, you used to be able to register for YouTube and you would get a Google identity on your non-Google account. I don't know if it works for that anymore, but everyone's got a Gmail account these days. So if you've got a bunch of contractors, I don't know, maybe you're an electrical company or a building, construction business, and you've got people that you need to give standard operating procedure documents or training, or maybe you're an events company and you've got a bunch of volunteers. These groups are great for this. Most people have a Gmail account and you can just add their Gmail account in, and you don't have to pay any licensing fees. You can have as many users as you want in these groups, probably thousands or even tens of thousands. I don't know what the limit is, but go for it. Go nuts. Okay, cool. We've got our 3 groups set up here. Hopefully you guys have set up at least one group with me. Here we go. And so we can see each one's got an email address. Each one has some members. They've got a group name there as well. Now, let's look at how we can apply those to our different areas in our workspace. So inside our shared drives, We pretty much do the same thing here. It's pretty straightforward. So we set up 3 drives. I'm going to set up 1 drive for exec. Give it a second to open up there. And instead of inviting staff on an individual basis, I'm going to invite the group to this shared drive. Now, in this case, it's the exec group. I'm going to make the exec managers. And then what I usually do is I actually go back and I remove myself from the group permissions. So it's only the group that has access to this shared drive. And I'll go through the individual options in a second. Now, what I like about this is it keeps things tidy. If you have a look here, for most of our shared drives, you'll see here it says there's a number of groups that have been invited, but no individual members have been invited. And that just basically keeps things tidy. It means that your access is restricted to the groups, and you just have a policy that you don't invite people on an individual basis. You just invite people to the groups, and the groups have access. And the reason for this is it gives you good habits around IT security. It means that as the business grows and the business scales, you don't accidentally have random people invited to all sorts of different folders. And if someone says, hey, I need access to this file or this folder, and it's within a shared drive, then you've got to ask yourself, have I got the right permissions set up correctly? And is this person, appropriate to be added to a particular folder? And then if that's the case, well, you would add them to the security group, not to the folder individually. So we've got one shared drive. We've got one shared drive set up, our exec test. We don't need to add anyone else to that, but let's go ahead and add another one. So it's going to be test. What else do we do? All team. Now, I say, if you're a small team, you can get away with this. Like if you've got less than 15 people in the company, probably going to be fine just to use one team folder. As your organization starts to grow, you may want to split this out into different areas and different departments. All it really adds is complexity, but it's useful when you've got like tens of thousands of files. And, if someone like Georgia wants to create a file and she doesn't really know what project folder it's meant to go in, at least she knows to put it in the marketing folder. So let's go to our team. So we're going to add people into the team here. We will say team dash, test dash team. All right, that's our team one. Okay, now here's where it gets exciting, right? Because with the team, you might say, you know what? I want my team to be able to add content and edit files, but I don't want them to delete anything. This is a really useful permission, right? So you give them the contributor permission, and then I'll add them. And then I'll also add the exec group, right? And I say, okay, and the exec group are managers. So they can manage people, they can manage the settings, they can do everything. Of course, if you're a large organization or you're the IT team and you've got like 50, 100 plus people in the company, you'd probably only make an IT management group the manager. And then you would have executives or everyone else in the business just have maybe the content manager permission. But anyway, I'm going to make the manager the exec. This is kind of small business context at the moment. And then if we had created a finance at or managers at our business group, here's where we would give them maybe the content manager permission. Okay, cool. All right, so we've got that. I can remove myself because I'm a member of the exec group, and the exec group has been given manager access. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Done. Okay, so that's our team drive. So you're following along. It should make sense. Let's do one more. We'll do the contractors drive. And more likely, rather than this just being called contractors, this would probably be called something like training, right? Because this is the thing where contractors are going to need access to is your training or whatever other public documents it might be. You might even call this public documents, because, or maybe not public documents, you might call it like, shared with external team or shared with contractors. So the team know, okay, this is really stuff that's being shared outside the business. Let's go to our members. Again, we would say test exec. They have manager access. I'll add test team. So that's everyone in the company. Let's say maybe I want my team members to be able to add and edit files. So they're contributors here. And then we have our external contractors. And depending on how you engage with these contractors, you're either going to choose viewer or you're going to choose contributor. Now, if you're the kind of business where this is just like the example I used in construction, you've got people out on site and they just literally need to read a building plan, or they need to read an SOP document, or they need to review a process or a project plan or whatever to do their job, and they don't need to make any changes on the documents. You may leave them as just viewer, or maybe you'd make them commenter. But if this is a contractor like a virtual assistant or someone you've hired on Upwork or Odesk or freelancer.com or Fiverr to do some work for you, well, you would probably want to make them a contributor. And what that does is that gives them the ability to create files, place them in the team drive, but not delete them. And this is where everybody goes wrong. I can't stress this enough. I know we've got to cover the absolute basic banana stuff at the start of this, guys, but this is where everybody goes wrong. What they do is they create a team drive, and then they start adding people's Gmail accounts willy-nilly, and they either leave the ability to delete content here, or they just share it straight out of their My Drive. And a contractor who's using a Gmail address sets up a bunch of files, creates a bunch of stuff for you, and it's fantastic. They're the most beautiful logos you could ever find on Fiverr, right? And what happens is 1 year, 2 years, 5 years later, that person who is still the owner of those files, if they were shared via My Drive, goes to clean up their Google Drive and they delete your files, and you don't notice for more than 30 days. And they're gone from the bin and they disappear. So please, 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 if you do one thing today, do this. Make sure that you've got your contractors, anyone outside your business, in a Google group, and they're either a viewer or a contributor, but no more. No more than that. They shouldn't really have the ability to delete files if they're outside your organization. Every now and again, a contractor will go rogue and they'll go and delete a bunch of stuff because there's a pay dispute or something else going on. It just happens. So be very, very careful with this. This is the most important thing that you can do. So for now, I'll set them up as a contributor, hit share, go back in and remove myself because I'm already in there. Ta-da! Done. Permissions done. If you need more help with what we've covered in this video, itGenius provides support services to businesses all over the world with problems just like this. Click the link below to get started.